I really want to just say thanks for you guys being like curious about meal prep business and really like starting this conversation, because that's really awesome. Um, and then also just kind of run through what the agenda is on my side tonight. And so I wanted to just kind of share with you guys how I got started with my meal prep business when I was living in Vancouver, and then things that you may want to think about when you're starting out. So that's everything from like insurance to like how to market yourself.
Mhm.
And then I want you guys to kind of like share what your ideas are for yourself, in terms of, where you want to take your idea, and maybe how we can all kind of brainstorm together what steps you kind of need to take in order to get there. Um, or whether or not you guys have any like burning questions, that you really want me to try and answer. So I'll try and do that for you guys. Um, so I'll just quickly start out. Do you guys have any questions before we start?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, I'm
Okay,
going to listen.
cool. Okay, so excuse me, sorry. Um, Really how I got started was it was really interesting. It wasn't even like I tried to start a meal prep business. It just sort of, in a sense, fell into my lap because I was consulting for just over a year for a gym. And the majority of the time, I would create a plan for the client and they wouldn't follow through. So then I created like a coaching program where they would come in and we would work through like a step that they were supposed to master in a week or whatever, and then have them come back and get a new one the following week. And so we would work on one thing until they mastered it. But I found that like nobody ever followed my plans. And I don't know if that
Mhm.
was just, obviously I think that has something to do with like the setting of where I was. Being in a gym, people may not be like ready for the nutrition aspect. They're super ready for the for hearing about working out and that kind of thing, but not ready to let go of some of their like holds on food. And so I joined a BNI group, and I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's a Business Networking International. It's a group that's pretty big in Vancouver, and there's multiple ones. Um, and so I started working with the BNI team. And what kept happening is they would send me clients for nutrition help, but the clients during the consult would just be like, I really don't care what it is that you do for me, but I don't want to think about it. So what ended up happening is I kept getting clients that were like, I just want you to make the food for me. I want it to have a twist, in like a nutritional twist. I want
Mhm.
to know what I need to do, in the sense like I want you to prepare the food that's going to make me feel better for whatever the reason is that I came to see you, kind of thing.
Mhm.
They didn't want to have the hand-on aspect to it. Um, So, I took on a couple clients, just prepping food for them once a week, based on their nutritional needs. Some of them, it was just like, I'm super busy and I need to eat healthy, or I'm a personal trainer and I just need food in my fridge. Otherwise, I don't eat. Um,
Mhm.
so, a couple of them were like that to start with. And it got to the point where I was working part time at CSNN, as a marketing and finance director, or coordinator, sorry, and also teaching a little bit, and running my own like meal prep classes on the side. And then I got like 3 or 4 clients that I was cooking for part time, once a week. And the more that the word got out, the more and more people came to me. And it was getting to the point where I had to decide between either working part time at the school or really like throwing this thing, like getting it up and running. And so I ended up telling my boss, like, hey, I'm going to quit. I'm giving you 3 months notice, because I really didn't think that the meal prep business was going to like roll that fast. And it was really crazy. Within like a month, I had like 8 clients that I was working with weekly. And so I ended up leaving CSNN a lot sooner than I planned, just because it got so busy. And then, yeah, I started cooking, basically doing consult calls over the phone, setting them up, and then going into their house and cooking once a week. And so I made my schedule around that. I usually got, I can tell you a little bit more about like how it worked and what the plans were and all of that stuff if you guys are interested. But essentially what happened was I got so busy that I couldn't fit all the people that wanted my help into my schedule. And so I ended up hiring people because um, I just couldn't fill the demand that was out there. And so um, there's a couple of things that make what I did interesting, because in Vancouver, and it's different for different health authorities, but in Vancouver, you don't need to have a health permit if you're working in somebody's home, because at that point it's like buyer beware. So these clients hired me essentially as a personal chef and not necessarily as a nutritionist. Um, yeah, and so that's kind of the very small aspect of what happened. Um, and by the time I sold the company, just before moving, it was November last year, I had 3 or 4 other part-time people working with me. So it was other nutritionists who, wanted to do the part-time thing and still kind of feel like they were doing the nutrition aspect as well as working part-time somewhere else. Um, yeah, so based on that information, I mean, I guess the questions I have for you that you guys want to know, like what questions you have for me, like how are your questions like how to build a program around it? Are your questions more related to, how to do it or where to do it? So maybe we'll start with Stella, I mean, and just get the ball rolling on talking about the questions that you might have.
Sure. Um, that's already really great information.
Oh, thanks.
Um, I guess I was wondering, I'm in Duncan on the island, and so I'm wondering, like there's no sort of meal delivery here. So I was kind of thinking of a meal delivery um, model.
Okay.
So you answered one of my questions, going to the client's home to cook, being hired as a personal chef. I was wondering how you did it, if you were at a commercial kitchen or if you were in people's homes. So that answers that question for me. But I was curious about how would you price the meals for people? Did your model look like? Did you bill for time, or was it groceries, or um, what did that sort of look like for you?
Okay, so meal delivery, I mean, it would work. I'm from the island originally. So,
Oh, you are.
yeah, my son, actually, one of my sons lives in Duncan currently with his dad. So I
Oh,
know,
funny.
that area really well. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so it would work. The problem was for me in Vancouver, finding a facility where you can prep the food was really
Hmm.
difficult because it was very expensive to rent the space.
Yeah.
So in terms of starting up, it was far, far easier because the overhead cost of having a facility was like, part-time, like 20 hours a week was $1,500 already. And that was just
Right.
hours a week. And then, also the health permit in Vancouver is different than on the island because you would be Fraser Health, and so
Hmm.
you'd have to check with them. I believe you'd be Fraser Health, anyways. You'd have to check with them on how their permit works. But in Vancouver, the way that it worked is you would have to create, say, for every meal that you were to create, you would have to have like a 7-page outline of where it was being delivered from, how it was being delivered, what it touched in your facility, how it was being packaged, and then how it was created too. And so, if you wanted to change your menu or have different things on your menu, you'd have to fill out this thing every time that you changed it.
Oh man.
In terms of like salad, for instance, you'd have to have a 7-page thing for any salad that you were making,
Hmm.
or any soup that you were making. So it kind of made it a little bit tricky because when you want to have a diverse menu for a diverse group of people, it made
Hmm.
it really difficult because if somebody said to me, "Hey, I just want food to fuel my body because I'm training a lot," that's very different from somebody who's like trying to lose weight or has diabetes or has
Hmm.
intestinal issues or whatever it is. And so in order to really be able to like kind of reach a broad group of people, it was far easier for me to go into their home because then I could literally do it client by client and build
Right.
that really special relationship that you actually want to have with your client, right? So that kind of set us
Right.
apart too, because you become friends with these people in a
Mhm.
sense, and you're able to build that really special like connection. I'm still friends with some of the people that I worked for in Vancouver, and so like for me that was really important to me, especially when you're working with certain health issues, to like really be able to still get close to your client. um,
Mm-hmm.
and then in terms of like model, so this is kind of touching on what we're already talking about. In terms of
Mm-hmm.
model, the way that I did it, again, I went with not having the facility because that would take a lot of overhead to start. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe before I talk about that, I just want to say in Duncan, it might be easier because the other idea too that I had was to find like a kitchen that was closed at night where you could prep stuff in that kitchen and rent it out,
Right.
like a cafe or somewhere like uh, something that has a small kitchen that's not open maybe past 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then you can prep the meals in there, and you would have that food safe area already because they would be running a food kind of system out of it. So if
Mm-hmm.
you can
Mm-hmm.
find like a like-minded cafe or something like that where you can rent the space for much less, that's another idea that I had, but again in Vancouver it just was not possible. um,
No.
you'd still be paying an asinine amount of money and not being able to get the food to the people for a price that they were likely to pay for it, right?
Right. I lived in Vancouver for several years in film, and I understand the the prohibitive price of things over there.
Yeah, exactly. You
It's
just
so
can't get
expensive.
ahead. Yeah, you can't get ahead. If you want to start a business, you really have to be smart about the way that you do it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's my suggestion on the facility. I mean, to each their own, and however you want to approach it, it's all on like you guys essentially. But
Mm-hmm.
those are my thoughts on the facility aspect. But model, so this kind of touches on the facility aspect. So the model was, um, I would get a referral, I'd do a consult call, I'd send them a questionnaire through the hub, through Holistic
Mm-hmm.
Nutrition Hub. Um, and then I would do a quick consult call, usually about half an hour or so, and just kind of find out what they were looking for and whether or not it would be a good fit. And if they were comfortable with me, obviously coming into their home. And
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, often it was fine. They were coming to me for this very specific need. So what I would do is I would create a meal plan for them, send it to them a few days ahead with a shopping list. Um, and usually, what I would do is I would take note of what foods they had in their house after the first visit. But the first time I went there, you can send them ahead the schedule, or not the schedule, but the meal plan and the grocery list, and they kind of check off what they already have and check off that they're okay with the meal that you're making, you know, and make sure too that they tell you, hey, I'm out for dinner for a work event on Thursday and Friday. Don't make me dinner here. I only need lunches, that kind of thing. Um,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and then, yeah, I would do the shopping for them and then go and cook the food at their house. And the way that I charged was I would do um, different packages. So the packages, the cheapest package was for 45 hours, and it worked out to be about $45 per hour. And the groceries were on top of this always. So I never paid for groceries out of pocket. I would essentially go grocery shopping, give them the receipt, and attach it to my invoice so that they could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, so it was 15 hours, 30 hours, or 45 hours. And so the 15 hours, if I was only cooking for one person, would last about 3 to 4 weeks. And then the 30 would be about 2 months, and 45 was about 3 months usually. And that was for going in once a week. And so the 15-hour pack was about 55, and then 50 and $45 per hour. And so it's not a bad rate all in all.
That's
Um,
way, that's way more than what I was initially thinking. That's been the biggest thing that I've personally struggled with
is how
because
much to charge.
yeah, because like from the feedback that I've gotten for people who, for instance, like say have like a culinary background and they've gone to like a trade school or they've gone to culinary school, like what would they be charging versus like from CSN, we're coming at it from a different angle of like knowing more the nutritional like quality of the foods, and so you're preparing it with that sort of intention. Because like I started doing my meal prepping where I'm nannying for a family and they approached me about it.
Yeah.
So I'm only charging them 20 right now, but I'm also like just developing this and like looking as to what I will be doing, like if I take on other clients. But so from like what I've been gathering and kind of like asking online, I've seen anywhere from between 30 and 50. So I guess 45 is like, but that's still a pretty big range. So that's good to know that that was like what you were going with in Vancouver.
Yeah, I'm
And
just doing some
the
quick math.
package is interesting too.
Yeah, exactly. And then that way you can have some security in it too, right? Like it's not like you're going to have one client and then, they decide that they don't like you or whatever it is. Most people I found would go with a 15-hour pack. And once like I kind of like wowed them with whatever it was that I did, they
Mhm.
would, go for a 45-hour pack to make it cheaper. I did offer a one-off service, but I would charge $60 an hour just because it's not secure. And there's a lot of responsibility in it for you too, right? Like in the end, like you still have to cover your bills for insurance and for your
Mhm.
licenses and for driving and all of that stuff. So when you work it out, it's really not a bad deal. For instance, like I was just doing some quick math. If you were working with somebody for 4 hours at $45 an hour, plus like $90 for groceries, which is pretty reasonable for one person in a week. If you're cooking, I did it. If you did 3 meals a day, it would work out to be $14 an hour. And that's for somebody to like come in, cook all your meals for you, have it be nutritionally sound, and know that it's like meeting your goals. So for $14 an hour, or sorry, for $14 a meal, it's in my opinion like a pretty good deal. Um,
Mhm.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's like you're knowing that you're getting that nutritional content. And the way that I like want to like promote mine as well is like the fact that if you're eating the more nutritionally dense foods, you're avoiding cravings, you're feeling better, like your health improves, you're saving money, that you're not like impulse buying and like eating out often. So it like definitely is a huge payoff for somebody.
Yeah. I mean, they're coming to you in the first place for a reason, right? Like they're looking for something because generally something's not worked for them in the past. So either going to the gym and getting their food, um, from either another service or from, just from the grocery store or whatever it is. Like they're coming to you for that specific reason. And so they generally won't shy away from the price because they know that, if they stick with you for 3 months, they should be able to reach their goal. And if you do it right, then you just get referrals from them. And so it ends up working out well, in my opinion. I mean, you could charge a different way. You could just do a flat rate and include the groceries. But um, in my opinion, it was easier for me to keep the groceries separate, and generally easier for most people to keep it separate because then they know that they're spending, say the package price on you, and then the cost of the groceries separately, which is most people would want to see for their budget anyways. Um,
Mhm.
and then it doesn't get complicated for you, and you're not losing money unintentionally when you go grocery shopping as well.
I have some questions regarding insurance,
Yeah.
although it may differ because I am in Alberta. But my understanding with like going into somebody's house and like into their kitchen and prepping, you can, um, I guess, kind of avoid, um, like, do you have to purchase the same sort of insurance as if you would be having your own kitchen?
Um, no. So I'm just gonna see if I can quickly find my insurance from the last company. Essentially, I switched to find a company, and I just called them and I said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. Um, this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is how many hours a week I'm going to be doing it for. Like, what can you offer me?" And I believe my insurance was still with um, Lackner McLennan, sorry. When I was doing this as well, and essentially they just, instead of having like a nutritionist, I had my nutritionist insurance, but I also had like a rider for cooking as well. And so it was personal liability insurance, and then also like there was damage insurance and all of that other stuff as well. And so basically, like, my advice to you would be to call the company and say, this is my plan, this is what I'm doing, and they'll reach out to the people that they think can cover you and come back to you with quotes.
Oh, nice.
My insurance for the year for both nutrition and meal prep, and it covered all of my subcontractors as well, was I think $1,000 for the year. So over the course of 12 months, it was really not bad.
Okay. Would you have a website or anywhere where you have actually your rates and your package deals written down?
Yes, let me just see. So I sold my company, and I think the website is still working. Let me just double check. My business name was preppedwithlove.com. It's not currently working at the moment, so I can send you guys the breakdown of what the packages were, just so that you guys can see them. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why their website's not working, but yeah, so I can just send you the package information too.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head what the pricing was. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't. I'm sure I could find it, but the other option would be going to Prepped with Love on Facebook.
Okay.
They've got I'm just checking to make sure that they have the brochure up here, or the pricing up here. So yeah, those are kind of the first steps that I would really start thinking about, is like what model of business that you want to have. You know, are you comfortable going into people's houses? Are you going to start looking into facilities? And then really figuring out, what startup costs you need to have. If you're just going into people's homes, like, I mean, it doesn't take a ton of startup costs other than insurance, and just making sure that you have the right licensing in your community.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously having a vehicle would make it much easier. For sure.
I know that's something I unfortunately don't have a vehicle right now, but I mean, I was thinking if I have one family now, and say like if I take on like 2 more initially, like I'm thinking like it would be fine if I just cab with groceries. Like I want to offer it, like, you give me your grocery list, like what you would normally eat with your family, or like, like I'll do the grocery service for you, and then as well plan out meals for the week, and then make like, say, like a hot meal and then like a cold meal, and then prep snacks for lunches, or like, easy grab and go things.
Exactly. Like if you're gearing, so obviously finding your niche is super important, like who you're going to market to. So if you're going to do families, you could do exactly like you said, do, 2 dinners a week that would, make it through 4 nights kind of thing. Maybe a freezable meal that they can pull out when they're really like busy, and then snacks for the kids, or whatever it is. That's the thing, is like there's so many ways to approach this that it's almost hard for me to coach you on like how to do it, because it's almost hard for me to coach you on how to do it because there's so many angles that you can take with it. But I'd be happy, like, if you guys think about it a little bit more and you're like, hey, this is my general idea, how do I go about marketing this? I'd be more than happy to answer like extra questions as you develop your ideas too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm going at it more from like a marketing to families, and then also targeting kids, like children's nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And I want it to be a plant-based business. One of the reasons is to minimize food poisoning risks, but I personally do eat animal products, but I just think like a lot of families are more concerned with fitting in more plant-based and healthy options. Like if you eat meat, if you're a family that eats meat, like how to get that into your diet, but like maybe people are struggling more so with like, what are some more creative ways that I can get like more vegetables and like like whole foods into my diet. So I want it to just be something that like families can go, okay, like here's lists of foods that like we definitely will not eat, stuff that we are like open to exploring, maybe like tried and true recipes that they really like, but then try to like find a way to put like a whole foods like healthy twist on it.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
I was a nanny for 15 years in Winnipeg, and um, I did that I had a couple different families, the longest of which was for 10 years. And I did exactly what you're talking about
Cool.
for those people. It was before I went to CSNN, so I didn't, I wasn't working myself or thinking much about it. But man, the gratitude that came back from this family
Oh
who,
yeah, that's how
there's so
I'm.
much, totally, there's so much gratitude. And there's also, I found that finding what they love, I'm sure you already know this, but finding what they love and then tweaking it so that it's close to what they know is possible. And then you can slowly, move them further away from, Kraft mac and cheese to whatever you're choosing.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I have noticed, I've just been doing this for, I think it's been about 3 or 4 months now. And the oldest daughter has ADHD, and like it's amazing. Like her meltdowns have minimized. Like she would get them after
Awesome.
school because she wouldn't be eating. And now she's like eating a very nutritionally dense lunch, and she'll come home and she's in a good mood. Like her moods are way more stable, sleeping's better. And so it's just like, and like the parents really see it. And just, yeah, it's so good to have everybody on
That's
board.
awesome.
I look at it like, I mean, like if you've worked as a nanny, like it's like you're working in a nurturing role, but it's in like such a
Yeah.
tangible way that you're able to give care, like on a
Yeah.
deeper cellular level. Like that's so exciting. That's really cool.
Oh, I'm excited for you. That's awesome. It's neat to see those concrete changes too, hey?
Yeah, well, and I went to CSNN. I graduated from the Halifax location in 2014, and like I think just like out of kind of lack of direction and maybe like lack of
Mm-hmm.
confidence to put myself out there, like I didn't really know what my niche was going to be. Like I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
consulting was something I wanted to go into, but
Yeah.
meal prepping has like personally saved my own health, just like having like healthy food to grab on hand so you don't like, feed yourself conveniently
Yeah.
things. You're like spending extra money on getting takeout and stuff like that. So it's just been, yeah, it's amazing to see like that slow evolution. I mean,
Oh,
some
it's
people
awesome.
know exactly what they want to do out of it, but it's taken a little bit of figuring out for me.
That's
It's
awesome.
like blending two different loves of mine.
It's awesome that you're a nanny too. Right now I'm working creating baby food for a little boy that I nanny part-time, and I'll be picking up a couple extra nanny positions too here in Switzerland and making food for
Oh,
them.
cool.
So I'm right in line with you, Carlin. In
That's so
terms
awesome.
of, I've kind of, it's the same thing for me, like it's nice to step into a family and
Mm-hmm.
be able to see those changes that, and also like relieve some of the pressure off the parents so that they can actually have some like genuine
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that for all clients. Like I've worked with so many people. um we've worked with so many people of all like walks, and it's just so good to get to know people and where they are, and just see how you can affect change really easily. And that's kind of something that's really amazing about meal prep, and what I really loved about doing it, and while still doing it, is just like the relief that you can bring to people's lives, and how you can change them, and get them to see that like food can be fun again and not have to be
Mm-hmm.
a chore. um, Bringing a bit of the community aspect back into it. If they don't have a family, then you're sharing that with them, and I think that's something that's really missing in our culture as well. So
Oh,
um,
it's so true. The
yeah.
parts of like sharing a meal and like preparing people are so, like I just find like a mom and dad, like they're like more disconnected from preparing food, and like mom is like very self-conscious in the kitchen, but she's like getting more tools and like more confidence. But the really amazing part of this has been because like she's happy to just hire me and like have me do it. She works full-time already, like she doesn't need the extra like 4 hours or so that
Stress.
she's spending in her kitchen. But her daughter has now been like watching me in the kitchen, and so she'll go and she's like helping to prep veggies. She was like using the cherry pitter the other day, and I'm just like seeing that influence of you know, watching somebody as like a positive influence in the kitchen, like that, those skills are like passed down
Yes.
to the
Yeah.
kids, and it's just such an awesome, rewarding experience. I would be interested too if you're doing that for babies. Do you have any books that you have liked for uh, nutrition for kids?
That's a really good question. You know, honestly, I base all my kid food off of adult food, but just smaller. You know, like what would I want my kid to eat? Obviously, there's certain limitations on like what, you know, a 6-month-old can eat versus a 1-year-old, but um, I usually like make soups and stews and just either like blend them up or, you know, rice. Like I made a really cool risotto the other day. He's 1 now, so it's a little bit different than when he was 7 months old. But I don't have any books because the way that I fed my kids and the way that I feed this kid is I really just kind of cook, you know, for us and then modify it for them. So
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I can't help on that aspect. But you know, anything that's like soup and stew and um, you know, finger foods, like kids really like to eat with their hands, and so I generally encourage that. Most people might not, but yeah, unfortunately, I can't help on that aspect. But that'd be a really good post for the group. I'm sure somebody has some good ones.
Well, I was just thinking like growing kids need like healthy protein content. Obviously, you like want to have like no like I try to be encouraging like natural sugars and like natural like treats that are but they're like healthy. Like I do like a coconut chia pudding with cherries, and then
Yeah,
it's like they get that like um that treat, but it's not going to send them into a sugar crash and crying. The amazing
Mm-hmm.
part too of doing this is that like they used to have more sugar on hand, and I would really start to kind of point out like do you notice that there's an emotional difference when they between when they're eating it and when they're not? And after I can think of one meltdown in particular, it was they like cleared out all the sugar from the house after that.
yeah, yeah.
Mom was like, I don't want to deprive my kids. And I'm like, your kids will realize you love them more because you don't give them sugar.
Well, and that's the thing is like with me, with my personal experience, I have 2 children who are very sensitive. One has like severe allergic reactions to food in general. So we stick away from almost all processed food for him unless we've tested it and know. But yeah, with one of my sons, it's very clear that sugar and wheat are huge components to his mental well-being, not only with
Mm-hmm.
you know, depression, but also meltdowns. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool to see the transformation that goes on in the family and with these people and how they can truly see um, how food affects their health. And I think that's what makes meal prepping so rewarding. It really is giving you that connection to the client that, in my opinion, I don't feel when I'm consulting because you're not spending enough time with them, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, so that was one
definitely.
reason why I enjoyed being in the house with them too, so that you could just really see how your food is affecting them. Really get to know who they are, what they're liking, what they're disliking. Yeah, it creates a a really cool connection, in my opinion.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for organizing this group chat.
Oh, no
Mm-hmm.
worries. Thanks for being here, you guys, and thanks for again like kind of kickstarting it. I'll see if you guys have any more questions, but maybe just take a note. I wrote a list of things that you may want to think about just to kind of get started and get the brainstorming going for you guys.
Oh
Um,
yeah, please.
just a few things. You know, insurance, obviously, we talked about that already. Licenses and permits for your area. Obviously, it's going to be different in BC than it is in Alberta. Um, Contract, like have a contract on that. With either a lawyer or something so that you know you're not liable for food poisoning if that ever happens. In the how long was I doing it? In the year that I did it, I didn't have any food poisoning issues. And I think I kind of snuck under the radar on that one because I was very careful. Like I would do 2 or 3 days of fresh food, and the other like 3 or 4 days that I did could be frozen. And so they were responsible for like pulling out their meals after that,
Mm-hmm.
but still getting fresh content as well in their home. So contract is pretty important in my opinion. probably one of the first things that I dealt with.
Mhm.
Deciding whether you're going to go in the home or in a facility, and how that's going to work and your startup costs. Also, how much do you want to be working doing this? Like, I can't lie to you guys, like, this is not an easy job. It's hard on the body, it hurts your feet. It takes a lot of mental capacity, a lot of focus. But then again, at the same time, like, I used to love going to people's houses and them not being home and just listening to podcasts for 4 hours. So it's hard on the body and it's a lot of work. So just don't let that go to the wayside either.
Mm-hmm.
And deciding, like, is this going to be a part-time thing, or are you guys jumping head first kind of full time?
Yeah, I am like nervous. I've got quite a bit of my plan done up, and I've even got like business cards, but I
Good for
I'm
you.
tentative to put it out there because I know that I'm going to get a lot of feedback, and so it's going to be a matter of like having really firm boundaries of like what I want to take on. But I was thinking, like, if I start off with like doing 2 families a month for 1 month, and then maybe if I take on a third for the next, and then like maybe like down the line it would be really awesome to be able to hire subcontractors.
Yeah. How how many hours are you working as a nanny right now?
25.
25. Yeah. So, like, I mean, most of the time I was going into people's houses for about 3 or 4 hours. And I was doing, like, usually breakfast, lunch, and snacks kind of deal.
Hmm.
Um, and so you could fit in, I think, two more clients, like you said, per week or per month, and not feel like you were too stressed out in that regard.
Yeah, because I'll do if it will take me, like, I'm grocery shopping. They're a family of 5, so they have 3 kids and 2 adults. And when I grocery shop for them, it usually will take me an hour, maybe like an hour and a half on a really busy day, get home, and then it will take me about 3 hours to meal prep. And I'm amazed too, just in like 4 months, like I've gotten it down, like my the amount that I can fit into like a shorter amount of time. But I hear what you're saying as well about the, like, it is hard on the body. I'll surprise myself because I'm just so focused, and I'll be go 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 for the 3 hours, and then I'm done, and I'm just like gonna crash. Like I feel really like I need to nourish myself with a good meal and a good rest or a hot bath or something.
Yeah, I was meal prepping like almost full time, and I was like, I would get home and I'd be like, I need somebody to do this for me. Like, I need
Yes.
I need myself to come back home and meal prep because I mean, we usually meal prep, but then when I started meal prepping for other people, I mean, the time and the energy that it took to do it for everybody else was really tough. So, really, like, test the waters and see where you're standing emotionally and physically, and just see, if you don't, I mean, I have 3 children, so to meal prep and then come home to 3 children and, not really have a day off, that was a totally different story than a lot of people. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it might be different for you guys, obviously. Yeah, so just think about that, because it's a pretty important point to point out. Yeah, and then thinking about moving forward for you guys too, like how much you're going to charge per hour. Um, and this, it kind of rolls into, like, how can you scale your business? If you start charging too little at the beginning, it's going to be really hard to up your prices.
Mm-hmm.
You're better off to kind of start out at a higher amount, um, because you're, like, honestly worth it. Like, if you have experience meal prepping already, and you have a few references if they want them, and also your nutritional background, like, I don't think you're going to attract the right clientele if you have a good price point. If you get, $20 an hour, you're going to get the people who treat you like staff, and you really don't want that, in my
Well, I was
opinion.
thinking like
Mm-hmm.
30. Like I do it for because like they're like my family, and like I mean I don't feel like I'm being taken advantage of. They like it's like they like approached me and I was very timid, and I kind of am like, okay, like I'm excited for the opportunity that now they're like I can use them as my guinea pigs almost. Like it's like trial and error, and they give me feedback, and it's just like been a pretty good synergistic relationship. Although like having seen I've informed them like rates that people will charge for personal chef work, and so like they're aware that they're getting like much less than say like the $30 or $40 an hour. But I definitely hear what you're saying, that it's easier to set a higher rate, and then
For
if you don't
sure.
get enough business, you can lower it a little bit more. So, because
Yeah.
yeah, the confidence for me is like definitely a big thing. Like what I would like, yes, I am worth this amount, because I know like I do have, you know, the nutritional background, and then as well like my own years of experience in the kitchen making my own foods, and like making sure that it's like tailored to the most healthiest it can be. Plus with CSNN alumni, we have access to the nutrition hub and meal garden and like these sorts of things that um like make it easier to do our jobs.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing too, is like your situation's kind of different because you're working for them as a nanny as well. So you're getting like hours from them. So in terms of like overall hours worked a week, you have extra hours. When you're only there 3 or 4 hours a week, you really have to make it worth your while going in. And that's why I say like set your price a little bit higher, because if you're only there for 3 hours and you're charging $45 an hour, you're only making $120, which may not seem like oh, that if you have 2 clients a day like that, that's $240 a day. It's pretty good. But I'm just saying, like, make it worth your while, because you have to like travel and grocery shop and all of that stuff too. So I definitely agree with you on your aspect, Carlin. No problem at all. But I was going to touch also on, when you have prices that are set pretty high already, it makes it easy to scale your business in terms of hiring a subcontractor or a partner or somebody to come in with you, because then you can offer them a pretty good rate too, right? Like, so I would offer my subcontractors $35 an hour to work for me. And so or work with me, I would rather say. And in that way, you're still making a little bit money off of the contracts that are coming in for, finding the client, but the people who are working with you are still making a really decent wage. And some people would say like that's too high. Like I should have been paying people like 25 an hour, but they're nutritionists too, and they deserve a good rate, and you want them to stick around too. So for them to like have a business that's like taken care of for them essentially, but still working within the nutrition world, it was a great way to like build a community between RHNs as well. So um, that just might be one food for thought. I mean, that's down the line, not necessarily right away anyways.
Yeah.
um,
Did you make meat, or did you make plant-based meals?
no, it was all I cooked with meat. um, Again, the food poisoning thing is like, again, it's like buyer beware, right? Like um your client's kind of like hiring you as a personal chef in that regard. I mean, if they really wanted to sue you, they probably could, but that's why you have really good liability insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To cover you, right? So it, like I said, in the year that I was doing it, I never had an issue. And I also had that contract. So you have liability insurance, like covering your butt just in case. And then you also have the contract with them stating like, hey, you can't hold me liable for anything like that. Because there's so many things that could go wrong with the client keeping that food in their fridge after you leave that house. So it's not necessarily how you prepared the food or stored the food, because if the client leaves it in there for 6 days, when you've specifically told them to, either put it in their freezer or don't eat it after 3 days, and then they go and eat it on the 6th day and get food poisoning, that's on them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, in my opinion, like the food poisoning aspect was really like a small thing on the list. I was more worried about damaging something in their house, like flooding, like having the dishwasher running when I left. So I never ran the dishwasher for them, because if it floods, then that causes damage, and then that's on me.
Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't
So
think about that. That's so funny.
yeah, so there's things like that that I was more worried about than like food poisoning, to be honest.
Something as simple as putting a best before date on your food could take care of that liability piece, I imagine.
Precisely. So I always labeled food. I always left the meal plan for them on the fridge. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I labeled their food. I used mason jars because I'm literally obsessed with them. Um,
Oh
like
yeah.
probably far worse than most people you would know. But they were perfect for storing food. Like the little 500 ml jars were great for like snacks or small meals. And then the 1 liter jars were great for like, salads and, chili and soup and stuff. So I would always write with like an erasable marker, that tend to stay pretty well on the top of the tin, just like what day it was related to, like Monday, Tuesday, and what it was. And then on their menu plan, I would say like, exactly what was eaten when, kind of thing. So it was very clear to them what they were supposed to eat when and where that food was. And I would just put it in order. So they literally just had to pull it out and eat it. Yeah, so that kind of comes to my next point too, is like having a meal planning app. Working with one of those, I use That Clean Life. It's pretty expensive for the year, but like saves you hours and hours of time.
Did you use Meal Garden before?
I tried using it, but I found it so complicated. I literally could not figure it out. And I'm very tech savvy. Like my background is in administration, and I built Holistic Nutrition Hub with my husband from scratch. And I like literally cannot figure it out. So I need to spend more time, but That Clean Life is very intuitive, very easy. And the printout was really awesome for me too.
Oh, that's good to know. I've been toying with the idea of paying for it, but thinking, oh my God, that's a little chunk of change to put out.
It
But
totally
it's nice to
is.
hear that you had good experience with it.
Yeah, it's totally a chunk of change. It's like a lot of money if you think about it upfront. But if
Mm-hmm.
you also think about how many meal plans, like if you have, I had, 8 or 9 clients a week, and I had to make
Mm-hmm.
9 meal plans a week. So,
That's a
um,
lot.
yeah, exactly. So if you get to the point where you can make a meal plan in 15 minutes, uh, you're making a ton of money off of that meal plan, in the sense you make your money back very
Yeah,
quickly.
definitely.
So it's, for me, it wasn't a big sore for me. Yeah. And then the last thing is like where you want to sell your services, right? Like where are some places that you can go out and let people know that this is what you're doing. I found it really helpful to make some baked goods that are super healthy. So I would make like black I can't talk, sorry, black bean chocolate cookies. And I would find events like, wellness events or wellness, what are they called? Sorry, you guys, I'm like losing my English over here.
That's okay.
There's
Like
a
a
lot of,
convention or a gathering or a workshop
exactly.
or.
Yeah, 100%. And then I would just kind of market myself there. Gyms were really helpful. A lot of my clients were personal trainers, funny enough, and then they would sell my services to their clients.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so just, brainstorming some areas within your neighborhood where you could find the clientele that you're looking for. Families, Carlin, if you're taking the kids out to play groups or friends' houses or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
getting your family who's already doing that with you to kind of spread the word. It's honestly amazing how fast the word gets out when you're doing this. I've had,
No, I'm nervous about it. Like I'm excited, but I'm also like holding back until I'm prepared.
um,
You could set
definitely,
up a wait list.
yeah, 100%. Because
Okay.
that's exactly what happened to me. I was nervous, and then I put it out there, and it was just like boom, like it just went off like crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
my husband's been wanting me to kind of start something similar over where we live now, and I'm like, no, but he keeps telling everybody, and the first thing out of their mouth is like, oh, I would totally do that. I would pay you to cook for me. And I'm like, no, stop. Like, I don't want to do this right now. Like, trying to chill for a bit. And yeah, it doesn't matter. We were camping and he was telling people about this, and they're like, oh, I would totally pay for that. So
You're like, I bet
definitely,
you would.
definitely be prepared, for word to spread fast, especially if you're good at what you do, which I assume both of you are, or else you wouldn't be on this call thinking about doing this. So those are kind of my like things that I would like you guys to think about. And then of course, if you guys hit any like roadblocks, I'm more than happy to chat, a little bit more with you guys one-on-one and moving forward on your journey. Cause it's, it's totally worth it in my opinion.
That's super encouraging. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. I have put it out on the CSNN alumni page a couple times, and I was surprised because I didn't get any feedback. So then that time that I finally posted and then you commented, Lynn, I was just like, yes. And it was like perfect timing because it was at a point where I had developed more of a plan and like confidence in what angle I wanted to take. I've also had feedback from another family that I care for, and mom was like, you should find a doula and partner with her, and you should target like
That's a great idea.
That was
postnatal nutrition and babies. And then you have like the childcare angle that you can be like, make the food and then be like, mom, like you go have a shower and I'll take care of, like I can take baby for a little bit. So
yeah,
I've
I
thought about that too.
100%. That was one of my ideas too. I was trying to find a doula or a couple doulas, and also like hopping on mummy groups, for postpartum. Like I was part of postpartum mummy groups, obviously, and just saying, hey, like if you want to do a meal train, like I'll do it, kind of thing, and you would set up the freezer meals, kind of thing, for them. Um,
Mm.
yeah, with a postpartum nutrition, spin. So definitely a great idea, and I think you know what you want to do, Carlin. I really feel like you've thought it through, and you're definitely on the right track for sure.
Thank you so much. It's really good to get all of this feedback. That's funny about the dishwasher thing. I never even thought of causing damage to their kitchen.
The only the only reason I know about that is because I used to run not a meal. I used to run a meal prep business. No, I used to run a cleaning company, and so we were never allowed to leave the dishwasher on because of that. So
That
that's the
makes
only
sense.
reason. That's the only reason I ever thought about it when I was meal prepping. And so I always had to tell my clients, like, "Hey, I'm not lazy. I'm just like protecting your house."
Yeah, I don't
My
mind
partner has a flooring business. Maybe I could
Maybe
generate some business
you
for
guys can work together. Oops, sorry, I left your dishwasher on.
but I know a guy.
Well, Stella, now you've got your plan. Awesome. Yeah. Did you guys have any other questions for me before we wrap up here, or?
I feel like you really nailed the things I was thinking about for now. I mean, once we hang up, I might have 2 or 3 more questions, but as always happens. But I think for myself, you really tied it all in nicely.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, like I said, it still stands. Like if you think of something after the call, definitely put it out on the group. You guys both found me through the CSNN alumni page, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys should hop onto my Holistic Nutrition Hub community. That's like the website that I created with my husband. It's essentially like a hub for nutritionists, and we have
Awesome.
a bunch of resources on starting up your business and all of that stuff. So if you guys want to hop on there too, I can send you the link so that you guys can find us there, because there's lots of cool information that we have on starting your business and where to look and what to do. And then also a great community. I think we have over 1,200 people on there now. So
Wow, good for you. I would love that.
oh,
Please.
thanks.
Yeah, I explored that a little bit last year when I first signed up for my alumni membership, because
Oh,
they
cool.
put that on their website, don't they?
They might have. I don't know. Honestly, like I don't pay attention to who's like following us. I just kind of like do my own thing and just be happy that I, can reach out to people like you guys and create a community that, can help people. So they might have. I have no idea. It might be us, or it might be Practice Better that you're thinking of. I'm not sure.
No, I have it. It's like saved in, um, it's like one of my saved links. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I found that through the alumni page.
Oh, cool.
Is it a monthly fee?
Yeah, we have a monthly fee and a yearly fee. The community aspect is free, and we have so it's free to subscribe and to come into the community. And then we have a monthly fee. Essentially, what we've done is we've put up all of the forms that you would possibly need if you're consulting or running a business, so that it's really easy to send them back and forth between your clients. It's like an automated system, essentially. Yeah.
Okay. And then for insurance, is that something that we have access to that through CSN and alumni, right? Like they will have packages and recommendations of companies. Like I could go to the CSNN Calgary and they could probably help me with that.
Yeah, in terms of CSNN, they're pretty highly, I might be wrong on this, but they're Lackner McLennan is the company that we get a discount through them, through the alumni. But you'd have to call Lackner and kind of explain to them what you're doing, and your discount might not, for the cooking aspect, might not fall under the same thing. But you might still get the discount in terms of the nutrition thing.
Okay.
And in terms of like other insurance, there's You know, there's other associations, for instance, like CanPro and stuff that have their own insurance companies that they work with. So there's a couple other ones. I'm still trying to kind of figure out who covers us for what and where the best places are to go. But because you're going to be working with nutrition and then also with cooking, you really need to like speak to these companies specifically and tell them what you're doing, because it's going to be different than just working as a nutritionist.
That's true. My last question, because I had a couple of friends who recommended this to me. Like if I'm meal prepping, they were like, you should see if you can like find a wholesaler if you're buying certain things in bulk. If you were making certain things, there's like a CSA in town called Organic Box.
Yeah.
They're like kind of like a spud or something, and I think they're based out of Edmonton. But I was thinking about maybe approaching them because I could do like a package thing, but maybe that's like something for like later on.
Yeah, it really depends on how many people you're working with. So I had thought about doing that myself. There was kind of two hiccups for me. I didn't really know who to go with in terms of going. Like, I mean, I did know that there were some suppliers that I could go through because I did work for Choices Markets, working in their advertising department. But the storage was an issue in Vancouver, because if you're just running an in-home business, for instance, you're not allowed to store anything on your property. You have to actually have a storage facility and have that license through the city. So that was a bit of a like snag for me, because obviously I did have somewhere that I could store it, but I didn't want to have to deal with the extra costs associated with it. And then the other thing was having to deal with, like, when you buy wholesale through somebody, like say you wanted to buy like, I don't know, 10 kilos of almond flour or something like that. How to like price it out per family. So like if you're working with like individual clients, then it makes it really hard to price it out, like, hey, I just need a cup of almond flour. How much is that going to cost for the family? And still make your money back on it. So keeping the cost separate for each family was a little bit difficult in that sense. Like if you were working in a facility or in a cafe or something and you were making multiple meals of the same thing, then a wholesaler makes perfect sense. But when you're working one-on-one with somebody, it just tends to be a little bit trickier. Not impossible. I'm not saying it isn't, but I just didn't want the headache of having to deal with it personally.
Yeah, that is something that I've considered as well. It'd be like maybe like down the line if I was gonna set it up as a larger business, but if it's just gonna be like me going into someone's house, I'd way rather like just say like, hey, give me your grocery list, and then have like planned out like what groceries they would need to add to it so that I can make the meals for the week.
Yeah, that's exactly
Um,
how I did it.
yeah. Okay. Awesome. This
And
has been.
generally, like I said, like after like the first week of being there, you know what's in the house, so you can make a list, and then the next week you already know what you don't need to shop for. Obviously double checking with them just in case they used stuff, that's a different story. But if you're making all their meals, then you don't have to worry about it, because they shouldn't be using flour to make something else if you've cooked for them, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So any other questions before we hop off, or are you guys cool?
I think for the moment I feel pretty well informed.
Me
Cool.
too. I think this has consolidated a lot of information for me, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
really excited about this. Thanks so much for
Yeah,
meeting.
no worries. I'm really glad that I could hop on this call with you guys and help you out. It's something I really love doing. I love chatting to people who have these ideas. Starting a business is really exciting. So good for you guys. Good for you guys, taking the first step of chatting with me, because that's really, you guys are brainstorming and starting something really exciting.
Well, thank you for your support. It's huge. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
no
Yeah,
worries. I'm happy to help.
CSNN alumni has honestly just been such a great resource. It's like a community that I was missing out on for the last little bit since I graduated. So I'm just so happy to connect with both of you guys on there.
Oh,
Awesome.
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad that we all connected, and you guys stay in touch. I'd love to see how you guys progress and where you guys take this.
That would be great. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I hope you feel better. I hope your cold goes away.
Thank you. I'm feeling optimistic.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your morning, and I'll send you guys a recording of this just in case. I'm going to post it on my group, and then I'll send you guys the recording as well.
Thank you.
No worries.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies.
Nice to meet you
Bye,
both. Okay.
Stella. Bye, Lynn.
Bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.